I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Nolan, what brings you here tonight?
I need to work on 2 requirements for Communications Merit Badge and Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge.
Well, it's good to have you here tonight. Councilman Orleans is a Boy Scout, and I'm an Eagle Scout, and it's good to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Council Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? Yes, sir. And which item?
2 and 3.
All right. We'll be voting on number 1. We'll move 2 and 3 from the consent agenda. All in favor of approval of the council meeting minutes, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. First, I'd like to present an award to the Warrior Service Center from the mayor and the city council for their support over the past year. And who do we bring forward to honor? Gentlemen, if you'll come forward, please.
David Kiefer and Bill.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay. On behalf of the Warrior Service Center here in Roswell, the Roswell American Legion Post 319,
and the VFW Post 7583.
I'd like to present this award from our first annual award ceremony to the Roswell City Council and Mayor for their support for the Warrior Service Center in this past year.
I feel that y'all should be the ones getting the award for all that you do. We are very pleased to see that the American Legion and the VFW are working so well together and helping our veterans and being good citizens of the city of Roswell. And would you like your picture taken with the council? They'd love to have their picture taken with you. If you'll join these gentlemen down there. I will accept this on behalf of the city. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Hey, got some weight to it. Before we conclude, you want to tell us the audience more about the Warrior Service Center? You can do it as you smile.
Warrior Service Center, what it is it's a whatever the VA doesn't provide for our soldiers, we do it right there.
And if a veteran wishes to take advantage of this program, how would they do that?
Come by the VFW or the Warrior Service Center, or you can look up Warrior Service Center on Facebook, RoswellVFW.org, RoswellLegion.org.
Now, for those folks who haven't lived in Roswell as long as I have, how would they get to the Warrior Service Center?
You're headed south on 9, 1 block past the Krispy Kreme, take a left and follow the sign.
It's the same place our public works facility is in the back and the entrance to which park do we call that again? Waller Park. The Waller Park extension, not the Waller Park. You went to the Waller Park, the old Waller Park, you'd have to cross over the bridge and walk across. So thank you, gentlemen, for what you do.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. We have a nomination of Willie Russell for reappointment to the Rec Commission. Do we have a motion to approve that appointment? Motion by Councilman Eichelhart. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Wynn. All in favor raise their hands. Passes unanimously. I have a resolution to support a population distribution of the local option sales tax. Mr. Davidson, you want to summarize that for the council?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This would provide that the distribution of the proceeds from the local option sales tax to be based on the population for each municipality, and the county share would be the population of the unincorporated area of the county.
This would actually result in a slight increase of the percentage that went to the city of Roswell. I believe we've got the support of the other North Fulton mayors, and once we pass it in North Fulton, we're going to take it in North Fulton, we're going to take it down to South Fulton, so I would appreciate the council's support of this resolution. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. All in favor? Does anyone in the audience have any questions? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At this time, we'll call upon Councilmember Jerry Orleans with Admin Finance.
Item on our agenda tonight is approval for the mayor or city administrator to sign a contract for design services for the adaptation of the City of Roswell logo and tagline with Henderson, Shapiro, and Peck. Thanks. This be presented by Julie Breckville.
Thank you. 2 firms were bid on this contract. They were evaluated based on their years of experience, qualifications of their staff, projects of like size and scope, project understanding and approach. The evaluation committee unanimously picked Henderson, Shapiro, and Peck as the most qualified responder to provide the design services for the City of Roswell. So we are asking that you approve this contract.
Julie, you want to mention what the cost is to the city?
The cost to the city is nothing. They're going to do a pro bono for us.
I think we can afford that. Do you want to announce to the folks in the audience what our tagline is?
Our tagline is, "This is living, this is Roswell."
And you'll be hearing a lot more of that tagline.
Yes, you will.
Do we have a motion?
Motion for approval to sign the contract.
Motion by Councilman Orleans for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. It passes unanimously. I want to thank Councilmember Diamond for bringing this opportunity to us. And for those who'd like to learn more about it, we'll have a brief work session to hear about branding and our strategy at a work session. Councilman Orleans, if you would cover those other 2 items that were pulled from the consent agenda, I believe they're part of Admin Finance.
First item is approval of amendment to the City of Roswell Human Resource Policies and Procedures Manual, Chapter 3, Section 3.7, entitled Employment of Relatives. And I think to be presented by Dan. You presenting? By Dan Roach.
Thank you and good evening. This policy revision was designed to clarify our policy regarding employment of relatives and fraternization. We went about the process of clearly defining what we mean by a relative with respect to the policy. We added prohibition of fraternization in those relationships that would otherwise be in violation of the policy. Employment of relatives is prohibited in all cases within the same division of a department, and also any time when a supervisory relationship would exist between the two parties. We have added in this policy revision a requirement for both applicants for employment and applicants from current employees who are seeking promotion or transfer into other departments to disclose any relationships that may be in violation of this policy, and their employment or movement into those positions would be prohibited by the policy. We also have a requirement in the policy revision to self-identify all relationships that are in existence as of the date that the policy is implemented, and those relationships that are currently in existence would be grandfathered but could not proceed or progress into other positions in city employment pursuant to the policy draft.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Come forward if you'll give us your name and address when you begin.
Lee Fleck, Martin's Landing. What I want to discuss is there's one line item that you failed to note in your change in policy, and I want to make sure that that's still part of the policy, since it is still part of the 2004 resolution dated September 8th. And that is touched on that. This includes relations formed during employment. Okay, touched on that. Also applies to relations formed to the promotion or demotion. You touched on that. Should such immediate family relationships form during employment, it is not incumbent upon the city to create a new position to accommodate the policy constraints. Therefore, termination of either employee affected must take place. Is that part of the new policy change?
Answer would be, for the folks in the audience, does that mean if you marry somebody who's an employee or adopt somebody who's an employee? You say creation of a relationship.
Right.
So it would really apply to marriages and adoptions.
Correct.
Assuming you're adopting an adult who is an employee. which happens. Any other questions, Mr. Fleck?
I haven't heard an answer.
That prohibition is still in the policy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's the only thing that I wanted clarified. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else in the audience have any questions? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval of an amendment to the City of Roswell investment policy, and this will be explained and any questions answered by Julie Luke.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're bringing this investment policy to y'all. We did some cleanup. We changed some wording from what's referred to his and her. We tried to also clean up some redundancy that was in some of the sentence structure, but the main purpose of this policy was to extend the maturity life of an investment from 3 years to 5 years, with an average life of 3 years for the entire portfolio. We are finding that the interest rates that we can get on a 5-year investment is higher than what we can get on a 3-year investment, and most of our investments that we're purchasing are being called well before their maturity.
So this will allow us to invest in 5-year bonds rather than not just 3-year bonds.
Right. But still with the portfolio with an average investment of 3 years.
Does the council have any questions for Ms. Luke? Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion by Councilman Orleans for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Any questions from the audience or comments? Seeing no questions or comments from the audience, all in favor of the motion raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Luke, I think you have someone to introduce to us tonight.
I am very proud to introduce David Delac. David, if you'll come up with me, please. David is a graduate of Auburn with an undergraduate degree. There you go. And he also has a master's in public administration from Florida State University, which I'm very proud of because I'm partial to that school. But he also worked for the city of Fort Myers for 10 years in their finance department and has a broad wealth of experience to bring to the city of Roswell. We're very pleased to have him on staff. He was telling me how happy he is to be here, and I told him he didn't realize how happy we were to have him. So we're very glad to have David, and I wanted to introduce him to y'all tonight.
David, welcome to Roswell. I understand you've also spent some time recently overseas.
Yes, sir, I did.
And that's the most interesting part of your resume. Tell the council what you did.
My family and I were missionaries in Johannesburg, South Africa for 3 years. We went over in 2008, and we just got back in April of 2011. So it was quite an experience.
I hope it's not as challenging here at the City of Roswell.
No, sir, it won't be.
Councilman Orleans.
David, before you go, you have an MBA, right?
MPA, yes, sir.
Then perhaps you can explain why those guys over at Auburn have to have two different mascots and what the significance of that is.
I think it has to do with the fact that we're twice as good as everybody else.
Thank you, David.
Julie, it looks like he's going to be a quick learner.
Oh, you see?
That's right in there. We have to rethink that.
All right, we'll call now Councilmember Rich DiPolito, our liaison to our Transportation Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with KM Davis for the demolition of the Oxbow Apartments in the amount of $34,135. And this is for removal of some blight in one of our neighborhoods. Mr. Strickland.
We had 17 bids with a range of $34,135 and $180,831. Broad range. We reviewed the low bid, and he was a qualified candidate, and so we are recommending awarding the bid to the low bidder of KM Davis on the project.
Do you want to tell the public a little more about that project? This is just the first step.
This is the first step on a road project to modify Oxbow Road so that it resolves the issues on Highway 9 where Oxbow comes out at the intersection to that is an unsafe intersection right now, the one we've been working on for years to try to resolve. And so what we'd like to do is move it to the south a little bit, so there's a little wiggle in Oxbow Road, and to provide a connectivity between the Elm Street and Pleasant Hill. So the combination of those two things gives us a new roadway. But in order to do that, we had to take one piece of property. The owner was agreeable to buy it, to sell it to us, basically. And so we bought it, and now we have to remove it. It's been blighted for some time, and needs to go.
And it's understanding that this will be, we hope this will encourage redevelopment of that area and open up a new street network and perhaps get a regional detention pond in there.
Those are all possibilities.
So there's a lot of possibilities this opens up. So it's not just it's blight removal, it's transportation, it's redevelopment, it's perhaps some water quality in there too.
All of those things.
So it's a great project. Thank you for bringing that forward. Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion? Motion for approval by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Orleans. For the record, Councilmember Betty Price is absent with an excuse tonight. Does anyone in the audience have any questions about this project? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from we'll hear from Kay Love, who will be reporting in for Councilmember Betty Price, who again is absent with an excuse tonight. I expect she's up in Washington, D.C., helping her husband make this a better nation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is approval of a resolution to transfer community development block grant funding from the Arts Village project to the Adult Rec Center expansion project in the amount of $120,712.43. Ms. Wakefield?
Okay, because of the last matter you just heard came in so low, we have approximately $120,000 left over in that fund for the Arts Village. So we're requesting at this time that the remaining amount of $120,712.43 be transferred to the FY11 project for the Adult Rec Center expansion project.
Now, I understand this will be for expand the exercise facility?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Nguyen. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At this time, we'll hear from Becky Nguyen, liaison to our Environmental Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is really a great thing. I think it shows us about our education and how much we really are for our environment.
Approval to submit an application for the Community Wildlife Habitat Certification through the National Wildlife Federation. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Our environmental education coordinator, Vicki Culbreth, had identified this opportunity through the National Wildlife Federation for community recognition that seems to fit within our environmental preservation goals. And your approval will allow us to move forward and identify potential partners such as the Chattahoochee Nature Center, Keep Roswell Beautiful, who has already signed on to this program, and other community organizations. And essentially this is to demonstrate environmental preservation programs within the constraints of this particular program. There will be no cost to the city other than the staff time of Ms. Culbreth and myself to some extent, and Janet Liberman. And we would ask your approval to proceed with that.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Before I make a motion, Mr. Mooring, we're also bringing in our schools.
Yes,
and that
ma'am.
type of thing.
Yes, this
already
is...
the educational that we've done with our schools is also going to be included in this.
I apologize. I was trying to achieve brevity and perhaps was too brief. But yes, this will engage community schools, both public and private, as well as organizations like the Roswell Garden Club for home habitats and so forth, and will require participation by each of those entities in order for the community to receive this certification.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mooring. I move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon Councilmember Nancy Diamond, liaison to our Public Safety Department.
I'd like to call up Chief Warwick while I tell you about the approval to renew the high-intensity drug trafficking area memorandum of understanding between the DEA and the Roswell Police Department. Chief Warwick.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. This evening we ask for approval to renew our ongoing MOU, a memorandum of understanding, to participate in the high-intensity drug trafficking area, also known as HIDA. It is an initiative that works in Metro Atlanta as it does in other metropolitan areas around the state, around the country. It's a combination of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies involving 39 local agencies from 11 counties in the metro area. Their effort is to develop intelligence, focus on drug interdiction, and arrest high-level drug traffickers. Currently, we have 2 officers assigned to HIDA and have been participating in the program for approximately 11 years. Cost to the agency is the salary and some of the vehicle operation costs for the 2 officers. In return, we have access to high-level drug investigations, some of their intelligence networking, and the ability to call them in to assist us with our investigations. We recommend that we continue our participation in this program.
It's my understanding also that we participate in confiscation of assets.
We do, regardless of whether or not we are involved in that task group. We equally share with all other agencies any asset forfeitures turned over to state and local governments. And for the last 3 years, that's averaged out to about $400,000 a year.
So over the last few years, the cost has been exceeded by not just the law enforcement benefits, but the financial benefits have exceeded the cost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Turn on, please. The reason I want to step forward right now is that I had the opportunity to meet with Chief Ork about a week and a half ago, and I was following up on another subject matter which is near and dear to my heart. that I'm quite pleased to say is showing some remarkable results, and that is the ICE Secured Communities program. Now, that may not be relative to this, but I thought it would be appropriate for me to comment on that. And just, not that you can see it, this is available, this is the entire program, and I think in conjunction with the E-Verify program, which the city started on its own in 2007, the SAVE program, which I coerced you all into joining in, I believe it was April of 2000, yes it was, April of 2009, and then this ICE Secured Community program, which I brought to Chief Williams' attention, and that was joined in September 2009. I think the reduction in crime statistics at the tail end of Chief Williams' term, and the fact that arrests are down 25% through the first 6 months of this year, that all these in combination have had some very positive results on our public safety and our crime in this city, and I want to compliment the execution of this program by not only Chief Orrick, but his predecessors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else have any comments? Do we get a motion on that? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
This time we'll hear from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item on my agenda is the actual vote on the appeal of the issuance of the alcohol license, retail package, liquor, beer, and wine to R&B Wines and Spirits and Bonifacada from 1425 Market Boulevard, number 300, Roswell, Georgia. This item, as you know, has been on the council agenda on July 25th and again on August 8th, and this is the actual vote on the appeal.
Let's begin by saying what the city's policy has established a policy for measuring, and if you could express what that city's policy is again.
I didn't bring that, Mayor. This was
you can just paraphrase it, but we had a question of the measurement from the liquor store to the next liquor store, and we had no real direction or did not have much direction from the state of Georgia, so the council had to review and establish a policy. And Mr. Davidson, if you could just give us the gist of what that policy is.
It was basically the distance from the front door of one establishment to the front door of another establishment on the ground, provided there's no fence or bush or tree or anything in the way. You have to go around buildings or bushes or trees. So basically a way a pedestrian would normally be able to walk, not taking into account traffic violations and other things.
So it would be walking diagonally across parking lots and across streets, and just the most direct way to walk without having to jump a fence or become Superman and walk through a building.
That's true.
All right. And based upon that, the council reached a decision. Do we have to deny the appeal? And this would be a vote on denying the appeal.
That's correct.
Do we have a motion? Yes, sir. Councilman Orleans.
I think this is the only time you can legally jaywalk, is in measuring the distance. I'd like to make a motion to uphold the Alcohol Board's original decision to grant the license.
A motion by Councilman Orleans to deny the appeal and affirm the grant of the license. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The only other item I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss litigation and the acquisition of real estate.
Before we go, Mrs. Diamond, do you want to tell the audience what we're going to be discussing in work session next?
If everybody's here for the presentation, we've got that done so quickly. We're going to do a brief update on the branding and an update on the marketing plan for the city.
And discussion of capital projects and funding. It will be discussion of the capital projects list. Do I have a motion for closure to discuss litigation and real estate?
Motion.
Motion for closure by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. We'll reconvene in room 220 for a work session for branding and discussion of capital projects.
Do you want to read something in?
Sean McEwing.
And he says, well, how much alcohol? I said, no alcohol, just caffeine. So I'm bouncing on it. Yeah, like a sunburn and...
Hey, I'm well. How are you? See you.
He's old school.
Yeah, you can talk.
Right, so I'm walking down that way towards you. I was just telling Frank it's good to see him around. I've been keeping tabs on his cell
My knowledge, I don't.
No, we're gonna keep the library. No, we're not gonna let that library go away. No.
You want to stay for